Ghost have a new EP out called Phantomime, and their band, they like to release EPs between their albums. This one is just cover songs. It's different. It has some punk rock like Television and the Stranglers. You got Genesis, Iron Maiden, Tina Turner. It's a mix of songs. There's 5 songs. I'm going to keep this review short. I'm just going to talk a little bit about the original songs, and I'll give my thoughts on the 5 covers and my final thoughts and score. So let's get into it. First song is See No Evil. The original song was by the band Television from their debut album called Marquee Moon in 1977. They were a post-punk or new wave band, very influential in the 80s new wave scene. It's a band I was a bit familiar with. I have listened to the album before, but I was more familiar with the title track. But See No Evil is track number 1 on that particular album, and I'll talk about the Ghost version in a minute. Then Jesus, He Knows Me by Genesis. This was the single. This was back when Genesis were more of a pop band. Phil Collins was the main singer. So at this point, Peter Gabriel was out for many years. The song was released in 1991, and I'll get into that a little later. Then the next song is called Hanging Around by the Stranglers. This is the only band I was completely unfamiliar with. I had never heard of them. I looked them up. They were a punk rock band based in the UK. That's really all I know. I listened to the original song. The band reminded me of like The Clash. I never listened to them before, but the Ghost version is pretty cool. So I'll get to that next. And the 4th song, Phantom of the Opera by Iron Maiden. This was released on their debut album in 1980. This was with Paul Di'Anno and the band. And a very good song, possibly the best song in the EP. I think it's a very good version, and I'll get into that in a minute. And the last song, Tina Turner, We Don't Need Another Hero, from Mad Max 3 Beyond the Thunderdome soundtrack. Kind of a strange choice. They made it work. I remember the song came out in 1985 when I was a teenager. I used to watch this movie over and over. I had it on the VHS tape, but it's kind of a weird choice. I'll get into it more in detail about the Ghost versions of these songs. So, See No Evil is the first song. They use some distortion to keep it heavy, but they maintain that post-punk sound. There are parts that reminded me of like 70s prog. The guitar solo sounds very good. It's like a typical rock solo of the 70s. They had some atmospheric parts in the second half of the song. There's some haunting keyboards in the background. It's kind of futuristic, so not bad of a track. Then Jesus, He Knows Me, the first single, the Genesis cover released with Phil Collins. Period. Now this song is about televangelists. They preach one thing and live a completely different lifestyle. Something that many metal bands wrote about in the 80s, including Metallica, Metal Church, and Suicidal Tendencies. So the song is very metal in nature. I think it translates very well into a metal song, considering the original was more of a radio rock song. Hanging Around, like I said, I was unfamiliar with this at first. I thought it was pretty good. They use keyboards like more than the guitars, but overall it's a catchy song. And even like the original kind of like doesn't really sound punk. It's more kind of like a prog rock kind of punk in a way. But Ghost use haunting church-style keyboards in the background and backing vocals. The original is punk rock, but this sounds like Ghost. Like it sounds like they could have been like an original song by them. So that's that. Then Phantom of the Opera. This one was very faithful to the original. It was from the first Iron Maiden album. I think they made it heavier than the original. They added some more elements in the background. It's a great song to cover. Especially they have that change in the rhythm that comes in at the 2-minute mark. So when this comes in, they really start to sound like themselves on the song. Then that bass part at like the 3.5 minutes, that one sounds really good. This song is like, the original is just like really progressive for an Iron Maiden song. Like it doesn't really get like a lot of attention. You know, their songs with Bruce and from the 80s are like the most popular, but this one is like a really good song. And We Don't Need Another Hero. The final song, again, it was kind of strange. It has that 80s pop sound, but if you listen to Emperor, they kind of had that 80s sound. And they turned it into a weird prog rock sounding song, and it has that 80s vibe. It sounds slow at first, but once the solo comes in, it kind of sounds more like the original. So in conclusion, it's a good EP. It's short. It's about like 20 minutes long. The songs are all from different genres. I think the EP has a good flow. That's really all I have to say. I mean, it's enjoyable. It gets an 8 out of 10. It's all covers. I'm usually not the biggest fan of covers, but I'll check it out. So let me know in the comments what you thought. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Here's my review of Emperor if you want to check that out, and I'll see you in the next one.